right, I roped in here to talk about women's issues, but wouldn't it be interesting to run for office too, for Morris County? But so let's say you get a call or a knock at the door or whatever, and you know, like, gee, have you thought about, or not even running for office, but joining planning board or something like that, or getting on the municipal committee. And how many of us know what imposter syndrome is? We all know what that is? Or you look in the mirror, you're like, I'm not qualified, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, whatever. So I think we all probably have had those moments, right? And so again, just real quick, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about that imposter syndrome. Like when somebody says to you, oh, you should be higher up in the food chain, and you're like, what? That's not. So what are your thoughts on that? How do you deal with that?
So I came to this country when I was 8 years old, and I try to tell my story so people can understand. I may live in Livingston today, might be the superintendent and have all these titles and degrees, but I grew up extremely poor. I grew up very poor. My people don't get it when I say by the time black clothes got to me, they were white, because they were the hand-me-downs of my sister, and maybe they fit me and maybe they didn't, And sometimes, when my parents got divorced, there may not have been food at the table. So growing up and walking into spaces that sometimes I believed I should have never been in, that imposter syndrome certainly is there, and it took a lot of chutzpah, to walk into certain spaces. When I first got on that seat in Livingston, one of the councilmen said to me, "You need to come off the line because there's a man that wanted your seat." And I looked at him and I said, I've always learned to just be very calm. Sometimes it irritates people. And I go, why should I do that? Explain to me, if I was elected, why I should do that. So just asking the question so they can hear themselves when they're saying these things to you. Why should I do that? And then the explanation is never going to be good enough for the woman sitting in the room. But I said, I've always believed, and I'm very grounded in my faith, so you'll hear me use this a lot, that God puts you where you need to be at the time that you need to be. Not necessarily when you want to be there, but when He needs you to be there. So, there have been times even in my own career as I'm the superintendent of schools, I'm a Latina woman. I think there's only 5 Latina women out of 600 school districts in the state that are superintendents of schools. And when I grew up, it was only men who were principal most of the time, and the teachers were women. So just being in the space of education and rising to the top of that career, people would say, why aren't you applying to be a superintendent of schools? Why don't you go apply to a bigger district? Because I'm in a tiny district. I like where I am, so I'm happy where I am. But it took me 15 years in being in administration to even work myself up to being. I was a supervisor here in Morristown. That's how I started my career, Morristown High School. But it took me that long to feel like that imposter syndrome wasn't there, that I could be at the top of my career, that I could achieve that high levels, or that I could even run for assembly. Because when they called me, they said, you can't say no. And I said, fine, I won't say no. But when I walk in certain spaces, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I'm actually here. That little girl actually was able to work her way up to that. And when he said my father was proud of me, it didn't matter that I was married with 3 kids or that I had, doctorate or anything like that for my father. The first time he told me he was proud of me was when he walked me to the stage when I became a legislator. Oh my gosh. So I take that with me every day. That feeling that my father got, because I felt like I finally had achieved the American dream for him, that one of his daughters could do that. So that feeling never leaves you. I mean, for me, it has never lived, but it also fills me with immense gratitude every time I move a little bit up and a little bit up, and I could do that for someone else. That's also the biggest thing. Doing that for someone else, letting them feel like they can do it because you did it too. So Stacy. Okay. So not quite 30 seconds.